Hey guys, Foxdrop here with another Acer Predator training room video. Today we're going to be talking about when you should build tanky and when you should build damage. The eternal struggle of knowing whether the oh so tempting Yumu's Dustblade is the appropriate choice or whether buying a Randuin's is a better option. Before we get cracking, some ground rules. This video obviously does not apply to champions that only have one optimal playstyle like Talon mid. Don't build tanky on him. And Uramis jungle, don't build damage on him. This video is obviously much more applicable to those champions who have more potential diversity in their item build. And also for those situations where you got your core build and you're just not quite sure what to do next. And I may as well say here, if you are ever behind in a game, if you're unsure of yourself or you're not confident in yourself, just go tanky. So whether you should build more damage or tanky all boils down to two main points. Two questions you should ask yourself. What are you capable of doing and what is it you need to be doing? So let's start with what are you capable of? Now first you have to understand the value of building damage in the first place. Essentially it's for getting kills. Now that can be used to gain or accelerate and snowball leads. So capability translates to are you able to get those kills? Is this damage build going to help you gain or accelerate a lead? In the lane phase, this can be extremely matchup dependent. Is your opponent someone that you can kill? For example, if you're playing Jarvan top into a Yasuo, you know, he's melee, he's typically very squishy, and that's a matchup you can totally abuse and snowball. However, if you're Jarvan against a Scion, there's a good chance he's going to be stacking armor right from the get-go, and therefore not be very easy to kill. Not only that, but the difference between shutting down the Yasuo from our first example and the Scion is fairly significant. Essentially, as far as screwing the enemy team over, the desire to put a Scion behind doesn't compare to the same as the Yasuo. With that in mind, in order to justify building damage versus that Scion, you'll need to manufacture an early lead on him either through a gank with your jungler or an early kill, perhaps an ignite cheese or a level 2 rush. And that is, of course, assuming that your kills will come from the lane itself, which does not necessarily have to be the case. In this Scion example, the capability question would then relate to whether or not you are capable of getting those kills by roaming or otherwise. So then you have to look at other lanes and their matchups and see the likeliness of that happening. In this Jarvan example, your best victim would be the enemy mid laner, and if they're low mobility and your mid has good setup, chance of killing them becomes a lot higher than if, say, the enemy mid is a LeBlanc and yours is Vladimir. Having said all this, just because you can't kill your enemy laner doesn't necessarily mean that that's the only thing you should be thinking about when it comes to whether or not you should be building damage or tanky. So whereas what I said was good advice for that lane phase, League of Legends is much more than just its lane phase. So you're going to want to combine the advice I just said with what we're going to mention next. How do you want to play the game after the lane phase? And that's what our second point is all about. It's not just what you're capable of, but what you need to be doing. A different way of phrasing this would be, how do you contribute best to your team winning? And this is much more about overall team comps than just lane matchups. So ask yourself, what does my team want to do and what does the enemy team want to do? Once you've mapped out that jigsaw puzzle, you can figure out what shape you need to be to fit in best. I'll break this down into some simple bullet points that will cover the most likely scenarios that you find in League. Does your team comp have enough damage that you can win fights without you packing heat too? If yes, you can go tanky. If not, maybe you want some more damage. Does the enemy team comp have a single threat like a Protect the Cogmore comp? If so, a damage build can be good to take him out. Does the enemy team comp have the tanks, the AoE mages, the scaling ADCs, and yours doesn't? If so, there's a good chance the enemy team will win all of those team fights, so your Jax might want to not build the Sterex and the Guardian Angel, and instead focus on the Titanic Hydra, the Essence Reaver, and go for the split push and the 1v1. Does your team have good fighting tools but lacks that engage, and you're playing a good engaged champion? You can forget about the damage and itemize purely for that jump in. And does your team comp and the enemy's comp match up pretty equally in the team fight, but you're struggling individually this game? Just go tanky. Are you not struggling? More damage. I think you get the general idea. Combining these points with what we were talking about for the lane phase, and you should know whether or not to build damage or tanky in your games. Last thing I'll say before I leave you guys, sometimes it is hard to identify whether you should be building more damage or tankiness, so don't be afraid to experiment with it, see what works for you. Building damage can actually make the game a lot harder to play, so no shame if it's not for you. That'll do it for our video today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you in the next Acer Predator training room video.